It was a quiet Saturday morning in Seattle, USA, when 27-year-old Emily Carter opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling. Something felt wrong, not in her body, but in her life. Every day felt the same: wake up, go to work, come home tired, scroll on her phone until she fell asleep. She had a job, she had an apartment, she had friends, but she didn't have a reason. As she sat with her cup of coffee, she whispered to herself, why am I even doing all this? What is my purpose? She felt lost, the kind of lost that happens in your heart, not on a map. That same morning, a book slipped off her bookshelf and hit the floor. When she picked it up, the title made her pause: Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. Emily had bought the book a year ago but never read it. Now it felt almost magical, like the book had chosen her. She opened the first page, and a simple line caught her attention: everyone has an Ikigai, a reason to wake up in the morning. Emily froze. A reason to wake up in the morning. She couldn't remember the last time she woke up excited. Her life felt like a routine machine, not a living, breathing journey. As she turned the pages, one idea kept repeating: people live the longest when they do what they love, stay active, and live with purpose. Emily leaned back on her couch, thinking about her own life. She didn't hate her job, but it didn't light her up. She didn't dislike her city, but she didn't feel connected to it. She wasn't unhappy, but she wasn't alive either. At that moment, she made a decision: I'm going to find my Ikigai, whatever it takes. She didn't know that this simple decision would change her life forever. She didn't know it would take her across the world, and she definitely didn't know it would lead her to people who live longer, laugh more, and wake up every day with joy. But every journey begins with a single step, and for Emily, that first step began right here, in her small Seattle apartment, holding a book that promised a new way of living. The following Monday, the rain in Seattle fell softly against the windows of Emily's office. She sat at her desk, staring at her computer screen, but her mind was far away, back in the pages of the Ikigai book she had started reading. During lunch break, she walked to a small cafe across the street. It was quiet, warm, and smelled like baked cinnamon bread. She ordered her usual, a caramel latte, and sat by the window, where the world outside moved fast while she sat still. As she flipped open her notebook, she began writing one question at the top: what makes me feel alive? Her pen hovered in the air. She didn't know how to answer. Just then, her coworker Michael walked in. He was energetic, always smiling, and somehow, always talking about something exciting he was doing after work. When he noticed her, he walked over. Hey Emily. Mind if I join you? She smiled. Sure. Michael sat down, glanced at her notebook, and raised an eyebrow. What makes me feel alive? That's deep. Everything okay? Emily hesitated for a moment, then said softly, I'm trying to figure out my purpose. Michael nodded slowly, surprisingly serious for someone usually full of jokes. You know, I used to feel the same, he said. Until I found something that mattered to me. Emily looked at him, curious. What was it? He grinned. Volunteering at a community garden. Sounds simple, but when I'm there, time disappears. I feel connected. I feel useful. Time disappears, connected, useful. These were words she had just read in the Ikigai book. Emily leaned forward. How did you find it? Michael took a breath. Honestly? I didn't find it. I tried 100 things, and the right one found me. Sometimes you don't discover your purpose, you create the space for it to show up. Emily felt something spark inside her, a quiet hope. Maybe I need to try new things, she said. Michael smiled. Exactly. Get out of the routine. Explore. And who knows? Maybe your Ikigai is waiting for you somewhere unexpected. When Emily walked back to the office, the rain had stopped. The sky was still gray, but a small patch of blue peeked through, just enough to remind her that change was possible. That evening, she sat on her couch again, opened the Ikigai book, and made a promise to herself: I will explore. I will search. I will not let life happen to me. I will choose it. She had no idea that this promise would soon lead her far beyond Seattle, to a place she had never imagined visiting. A place called Okinawa. A week passed, and something inside Emily began to change. Her routine was the same: the office, the emails, the meetings, but her mind was different. Every night she read more of the Ikigai book, underlining sentences, writing notes, and asking questions she had never asked before. What do I love? What am I good at? What does the world need? What can I offer? but one chapter shifted everything. It talked about a small cluster of islands in Japan, Okinawa, the land of lone life. A place where people lived with purpose, peace, and connection. A place where the world slowed down, and life felt gentle. A place where almost everyone had a clear, warm reason to wake up each morning. Emily sat with the book pressed against her chest and whispered, "I need to go there." The idea scared her. She had never traveled alone outside the US. She had a stable job, she had responsibilities, but she also had a quiet voice inside her, a voice she had ignored for years. Now it was speaking loudly. "If you stay where you are, nothing will change." That night, she opened her laptop and typed, "Flights to Okinawa." She stared at the prices, her heart racing. It wasn't cheap, and it wasn't comfortable, but sometimes purpose requires a little fear. After 10 minutes of hesitation, after a deep breath, after a moment of courage she didn't know she had, she booked the ticket. A one-way trip, leaving in 6 days. When the confirmation email arrived, she felt a mix of excitement and panic rush through her body. She laughed. Then she cried, then she whispered to herself, "I'm really doing this." Over the next few days, she packed only what she needed: clothes, her journal, the Ikigai book, and a camera she hadn't used in years. At work, she told her manager she needed an extended break for personal growth. Her voice trembled, but she spoke honestly. Surprisingly, her manager nodded with understanding. "Sometimes," he said, "you have to step away to discover where you truly belong." On the night before her flight, Emily stood by her apartment window, looking at the Seattle skyline glowing in the dark. She felt grateful for the life she had, but she also felt ready for the life she didn't know yet. For the first time in years, she felt a spark, a small flame of excitement inside her chest. She whispered to the city, "I'm going to find my Ikigai." And somewhere across the ocean, without her knowing, Japan was waiting. The plane touched down at Naha Airport just as the sun was rising over the Pacific. Emily looked out the window, and her breath caught in her throat. The sky wasn't just blue. It was the kind of blue that felt painted, bleak, warm, and endless. She stepped off the plane, the humid air wrapping around her like a soft blanket. Palm trees swayed gently outside, and the smell of the sea drifted through the airport doors. For the first time in a long time, she felt alive. Dragging her suitcase behind her, she walked outside and whispered, "This doesn't feel like another country, it feels like another world." Hibiscus, the island vibe. The taxi ride to her guest house was slow and peaceful. The roads were lined with red-tiled houses, small gardens blooming with hibiscus flowers, and elderly people walking together, smiling as if they had all the time in the world. No rushing, no stress, no noise, just life, simple and calm. The taxi driver, an elderly man with kind eyes, glanced at her in the mirror. "First time in Okinawa?" he asked in gentle English. "Yes," Emily said. "It's beautiful." He nodded proudly. "In Okinawa, we sen and kurunaisa, everything will be okay." Emily repeated the word softly, "Nankurunaisa, everything will be okay." She felt the meaning settle in her heart. House with garden, the guest house that felt like home. Her guest house was a small wooden house near the beach. A woman in her 70s came out to greet her, wearing a simple apron and the warmest smile Emily had ever seen. "Welcome, welcome," the woman said kindly. "My name is Aiko. Please feel at home." Emily bowed slightly, copying the gestures she'd seen online. Inside, the house smelled like green tea and fresh tatami mats. Aiko showed her to a small room with sliding doors, soft lighting, and a futon neatly placed on the floor. "It's perfect," Emily whispered. Aiko smiled. "You came here to rest your heart, I think. Okinawa is good for that." Emily stared at her, surprised. "How did you know?" Aiko simply tapped her chest gently. "Because I can feel it." Waterway. First steps toward a new life. After settling in, Emily walked to the beach just a few minutes away. The sand was white, almost glowing. The water was clear enough to see tiny fish darting near her feet. She sat down, hugged her knees, and listened to the sound of the waves. For the first time in years, there was silence inside her mind. No racing thoughts, no worries, no pressure. Just peace. She took out her journal and wrote, "I don't know what my Ikigai is yet, but for the first time, I feel closer to it." As she looked out at the horizon, she felt something shift inside. A small beginning. A quiet promise. Okinawa wasn't just a place she traveled to. It was a place that would change her life. The next morning, sunlight streamed softly through the paper-thin shoji doors of Emily's room. She woke up earlier than usual, not because of an alarm, but because her body felt rested. That alone felt like a miracle. Aiko had prepared a simple breakfast: miso soup, grilled fish, rice, and green tea. As they sat together at the small wooden table, Aiko said, today, you should visit Ajama village. Many centenarians live there, people over 100 years old. They know Ikigai very well. Emily's heart jumped, can I go there? Aiko nodded, I will arrange a scooter for you. It's a quiet ride through beautiful forests. You will like it. Emily smiled, grateful, she didn't know why, but she trusted Aiko deeply, the way you trust someone who has lived long enough to understand things without needing explanations. The journey to Ajama. The scooter ride felt like traveling through a dream. She passed tiny farms, old stone walls, and clear streams running through green fields. Every turn revealed something new, a group of children playing, an old man trimming bonsai trees, a woman drying seaweed in the sun. It was peaceful, almost. Andiel, she parked near a small wooden sign that read, Welcome to Ajama, Village of Longevity. As she walked through the quiet streets, she felt a strange sense of comfort, as if the village itself had been expecting her. Old woman meeting the centenarians. Emily found a small community center where several elderly people were gathered, chatting, laughing, and weaving baskets by hand. One woman, tiny and bright-eyed, waved at her. You're not from here, the woman said in careful English. Come, sit with us. Emily sat down, smiling nervously. My name is Emily. I'm from the United States. The woman nodded proudly. I am Yumiko, 102 years old. And this is my friend Hiroto, 97. We are young, she added with a playful wink. Emily laughed, surprised by their energy. How do you stay so happy? So active. Haruto tapped his chest with a wrinkled hand. We have Ikigai, he said. A reason to wake up. A purpose. Emily leaned forward. What is your Ikigai? Yumiko laughed softly. For me, it is weaving these baskets. I have made them since I was a girl. When I make them, time disappears. My heart is calm. Haruto nodded. My Ikigai is teaching young people how to fish. When they learn, I feel useful. Then Yumiko looked at Emily, really looked at her. And you, she asked gently. What is your Ikigai, child? Emily opened her mouth, and realized she had no answer. Not yet. Yumiko touched her hand softly. It is okay, she said. Most people don't know. You must listen to your heart, very carefully. It whispers. Emily felt emotion rising in her chest. I'm trying to find it, she said. Yumiko smiled. Good. You have already started. The moment you begin searching, your Ikigai begins searching for you. Cherry blossom. A lesson Emily would never forget. Before leaving, Yumiko handed her a small hand-woven basket, delicate, beautiful, made with love, for you, she said. A reminder that life is made slowly, patiently, one thread at a time. Emily bowed deeply, tears in her eyes. Thank you. I treasure it. As she rode back to the guest house, the wind brushing her face, she felt a quiet truth inside her. She was not just learning about Ikigai, she was beginning to live it. The next morning, Emily woke up before sunrise. The sky outside her window was still dark, but a faint line of gold shimmered along the horizon. She wasn't sure why she woke up so early. Maybe it was excitement, or peace, or something deeper. After breakfast, Aiko approached her with a gentle smile. Today, she said, you should meet Takeshi. He teaches pottery. Many visitors find flow in his workshop. Emily tilted her head. Flow. Aiko nodded. Yes. When you do something you love so much that you forget time. It is the heart of Ikigai. Flow. Emily had read about it in the book, the state where your mind becomes quiet and the world feels simple. Maybe this was her chance to feel it. For the pottery workshop. The workshop was a wooden shed near a large banyan tree. Inside, sunlight streamed through open windows, illuminating shelves filled with bowls, vases, and tiny ceramic figures. A tall man in his 60s looked up from a spinning wheel. You must be Emily, he said in calm English. Aiko told me about you. Emily smiled nervously. Yes. He came to learn. Takeshi nodded and handed her a block of soft clay. Good. Sit. We start. There was no long explanation, no lecture, just simple action. Takeshi placed her hands on the clay and guided them gently. Breathe. Move slowly. Let the clay tell you what it wants to become. Emily pressed her fingers into the cool clay, unsure at first, but slowly, something changed. The wheel spun, the clay rose and fell with the pressure of her hands. Her breathing matched the rhythm. Minutes passed, then an hour, then 2. But she didn't notice, for the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about her job, her fears, her future, or her past. She was just there, fully present, fully alive. This was flow. When faced a moment of realization when Emily finally looked up, the sun had shifted across the room. Her hands were covered in clay, but her heart felt strangely light. Takeshi watched her quietly. "You forgot time," he said, smiling. Emily nodded, almost breathless. "Yes. I did." "That is flow," Takeshi said. "And where there is flow, Ikigai is close." Emily looked at the small bowl she had made. It wasn't perfect, it was uneven, slightly crooked, and wobbly, but it felt warm. It felt hers. She whispered, "I haven't felt like this in years." Takeshi wiped his hands on a cloth. "Most adults forget how to play. Children remember. Old people remember. But people in the middle," he tapped his chest, "they forget. They get stuck in busy lives. No space for the soul to breathe." Emily felt those words like a soft shock. Was that her life, busy, but not alive? She swallowed slowly. "I think I came here to remember who I really am." Takeshi gave a gentle nod. "Good. Then you are on the right path." Sunrise over mountains. Walking back with a new heart on her walk back to the guest house, Emily carried the small clay bowl in her hands. The air smelled of ocean breeze and blooming flowers. Children laughed in the distance. An old man sang softly while sweeping outside his shop. Everything felt alive, and, for the first time, so did she. She wrote in her journal that night, "Flow feels like coming home to myself." Maybe my Ikigai is something creative. Something gentle, something that makes me disappear. She didn't know what it was yet, but she knew she was getting closer, much closer. A few days passed, and Emily settled into a gentle rhythm, a rhythm very different from her life back in Seattle. She woke up with the sunrise, she helped Aiko prepare breakfast, she took long walks near the ocean. She visited the villagers, listened to their stories, and practiced pottery with Takeshi in the afternoons. For the first time in years, her days didn't packed with schedules and tasks. They flowed naturally, like the warm Okinawan breeze. On a quiet afternoon, Aiko invited her to join a Moai gathering. Emily had read about Moai in her Ikigai book, a small lifelong support group where friends meet regularly to share stories, food, and encouragement. A living circle of community. A key to a long, joyful life. Teacup without handle. The Moai gathering. The gathering was held in Aiko's backyard under a large mango tree. 5 elderly women sat on small cushions, laughing as they passed around plates of sweet potatoes and green tea. When Emily arrived, the women immediately waved her over. Aiko introduced them. Sachiko, 91, the storyteller Mina, 88, the singer Keiko, 94, the silent observer Hannah, 89, the herbal expert Rika, 86, the gentle leader. Emily bowed politely, feeling shy, but Sachiko grabbed her hand with surprising strength. "Sit, sit. Today we had one more sister." The women laughed, and Emily felt her nervousness melt. The power of community. As they ate together, Mina began humming an old Okinawan folk song. Hannah passed Emily a small cup of jasmine tea, saying, "This tea keeps the heart calm." Emily smiled. "My heart needs that." Rika leaned closer. "Everyone's heart needs calm. In Okinawa, no one carries life alone. We share the weight." Emily felt a lump in her throat. Back in Seattle, she often did everything alone, her work, her problems, her worries. Here, people carried life together. The women shared stories of their childhood, their families, their joys, and even their losses. But they didn't speak with sadness, they spoke with gratitude. Emily listened, mesmerized. They were old, but not tired. Their eyes sparkled with life. Finally, Sachiko looked at her and asked, "And you, young one? What brings you here from so far away?" Emily hesitated, then answered honestly, "I came, because I lost my purpose. I want to find my Ikigai." The women nodded knowingly. Keiko, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke. "Young people think Ikigai is something big," she said softly, "but sometimes, it is something small. Something simple. Something right in front of you." Emily looked down at her hands, small, simple, right in front of her. Could her Ikigai be like that? Sunrise. A moment of truth. As the sun set behind the mango tree, the women joined hands, something they did at the end of every Moai meeting. Aiko explained, "We hold hands to remember we are never alone. Connection is life. Community is Ikigai." Emily felt the warmth of their hands, their friendship, Their decades of shared life, tears filled her eyes. She wasn't just observing Okinawan life anymore, she was living it, and quietly, softly, she whispered to herself, maybe my Ikigai is connected to people.to stories.to helping.to creating. She didn't know the full answer yet, but she knew she was getting closer than ever. One evening, after weeks in Okinawa, Emily walked back from the pottery workshop with her handmade bowl wrapped gently in cloth. The sky, usually bright and calm, had turned heavy and grey that a windstorm, common on the island, was beginning to rise. Aiko stood outside the guest house, looking up at the sky. A storm is coming, she said softly. Stay inside tonight. Emily nodded and went to her room, but when she sat on her futon, listening to the wind howl outside, she felt something strange inside her, a restlessness she couldn't explain. She opened her journal, she tried to write. She tried to think, but the storm outside felt like a storm inside her chest. Why? Because she still didn't know her Ikigai. She was learning, exploring, listening, but the final answer wasn't there yet. Cloud with rain, a heavy hard rain slammed against the windows, thunder cracked in the distance. Emily hugged her knees, staring at the small pottery bowl in her hands. She whispered, I came so far, but what if I still don't find my purpose? Her voice cracked. For the first time since arriving in Okinawa, she felt fear again, the same fear she had felt in Seattle. What if she wasn't enough? What if she didn't have a true calling? What if she went home the same person? A sudden knock on her door brought her back. Aiko entered, carrying 2 cups of hot ginger tea. You're crying, Aiko said gently. Why? Emily wiped her eyes but didn't lie. I'm scared, she whispered. I'm scared I won't find my Ikigai. Aiko sat beside her, her presence warm and steady. Emily, she said softly, a storm does not mean the sky is angry. It means the sky is changing. Emily looked up, confused. What do you mean? Aiko held her hands. Before something becomes clear, everything becomes loud. Storms are signs that something new is coming. Emily felt her breath stop for a moment. Something new, something changing. Wind faced the story of Aiko's Ikigai. Aiko took a deep breath. When I was young, I wanted to be a painter, she said. But life was difficult. My parents needed me. He worked in fields, raised children, cooked food. He never became a painter. Emily's heart tightened. So you didn't find your Ikigai? Aiko shook her head, smiling. No, child. He found it later. My Ikigai was never painting. It was caring, feeding people, welcoming travelers, giving lost hearts a place to rest. Emily felt tears fall again, but this time, not from fear, from recognition. Aiko touched her cheek. Ikigai grows with you. It changes with time. You do not find it once, you find it again and again. The wind outside softened, as if listening. Rainbow. When the storm ends. Hours later, the storm finally passed. The rain slowed to a whisper, the wind calmed, the night became still. Emily stepped outside. The air was cool and clean, and the sky was dotted with stars. She felt something inside her shift, gently, peacefully. Not a complete answer, but a direction. A beginning. She whispered into the quiet night, my Ikigai is connected to creating, and to people, and to making their lives a little brighter. It wasn't a final definition, but it was real. It was honest, and it was hers. As she walked back inside, she felt lighter, as if the storm had washed something away. She was ready for what came next. Sarah woke up early, before the sun had fully risen. She sat near her living room window with a cup of peppermint tea and watched a soft pink glow spread across the sky. For the first time in years, she felt calm. Not excited. Not worried. Just present. That morning, she remembered something Mrs. Rivera told her in the classroom. Ikigai is not about chasing life. It's about moving with it. She wrote that sentence in her journal, underlined it twice, and added a new goal for the week: practice flow. Do things slowly but fully. So she chose one simple activity: making breakfast. She didn't rush like before. She diced vegetables carefully, stirred eggs gently, and listened to the soft sizzle of the pan. Every sound felt clearer. Every moment felt important. Later that day, she visited a community art studio the librarian had recommended. People of all ages were painting, sculpting, or weaving. No one compared, no one competed, they just created. A soft jazz track played in the background, and the room felt like a sanctuary. One of the artists, a retired engineer named Aimé Ricole, noticed her observing quietly. You're new, he said kindly. Do you create? Sarah hesitated. I used to paint in college. Then life happened, I guess. Mr. Cole laughed. Life always happens. But art helps you keep up. He handed her a small canvas, a set of brushes, and some soft blue paint. Try it. Don't think. Just follow your hand. She took a deep breath and began. At first her strokes were stiff, but slowly they softened. Minutes passed. Then an hour. She didn't feel time. She didn't feel stress. She didn't even feel tired. She was in flow, a state she hadn't experienced since she was 19. When she finally looked up, the painting wasn't perfect. But it was peaceful, gentle, and very her. Mr. Cole smiled as he saw her expression. That's the secret, he said. Flow isn't about talent. It's about losing yourself in what you love. Walking home, Sarah felt lighter, as if someone had taken a heavy backpack off her shoulders. She realized something important. Her Ikigai wasn't one big discovery. It was a collection of small moments, moments where she felt alive, connected, and true to herself, and now, she wanted more of those moments, not tomorrow, not one day. But starting now. 1 month later, Sarah stood in her newly arranged living room, sunlight pouring across the wooden floor. Her plants were thriving again. Her journal was almost half full. Her schedule was no longer overflowing, just balanced enough to make her feel steady. Her life hadn't magically transformed. She still worked long days. She still faced challenges. But everything felt different, because she was different. She woke up each morning with a question she had written on a sticky note above her bed. What is one small thing that gives me joy today? And each day, she found an answer. Sometimes it was teaching a lesson that made her students laugh, sometimes it was painting for 20 minutes, sometimes it was walking to school instead of driving, breathing in the crisp morning air. Sometimes it was helping a neighbor, just because she could. Little by little, her choices began shaping a new rhythm. A rhythm that felt meaningful. One Friday afternoon, the school principal stopped by her classroom. Sarah, I've noticed you seem lighter lately. Happier. The kids feel it too. Sarah smiled softly. I think I finally learned how to slow down and be myself again. The principal nodded. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. That evening, she visited the park again, the same place where she had first spoken with Mrs. Rivera. The cherry blossoms were gone now, replaced by summer leaves, but the peaceful feeling remained. As she sat on the same bench, Mrs. Rivera happened to pass by. Oh, she said with delight. Our Ikigai student returns. Sarah laughed. I think I've finally found it, or at least I'm living closer to it. Mrs. Rivera sat beside her. Ikigai isn't something you find once. It's something you live again and again. Every day. Sarah looked around, the families playing, the soft sunset, the breeze carrying warm air across the park. I believe that now, she said. My purpose isn't one big moment. It's the collection of small ones. Mrs. Rivera squeezed her hand. Then you've understood the deepest lesson. As the evening sky turned golden-orange, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Her life wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful. Not because everything was easy, but because she had learned to appreciate the simple, meaningful things: purpose, joy, flow, connection, growth. These were no longer ideas from a book, they were her life. She stood up, smiled, and whispered to herself, this is my Ikigai. And she walked home, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring.